You wake up tired. Not just I didn't sleep well tired, but soul tired. The kind of fatigue that clings to your chest even after 8 hours in bed. You go through your morning motions, brush teeth, check phone, pour coffee, scroll a little. Everything gets done. And yet, something's off. You're not falling apart, but you're not fully here either. You laugh when you should, answer when expected, but behind your eyes there's a fog you can't explain. No spark, no hunger, no drive. You used to love things. Now you just get through them. So you blame the usual suspects. Maybe it's work. Maybe it's the news. Maybe it's this screen time. You tell yourself you're just in a slump, or getting older, or maybe, just maybe, you've gone soft, lazy. But what if you're not any of those things? What if underneath the habits and hustle you're not emotionally broken, just chemically drained? What if the problem isn't you, but what your brain has quietly stopped producing? That's dopamine. Not just the pleasure chemical people throw around on social media. It's deeper. It's the signal that tells your body to care, to strive, to rise. Without it, everything feels heavy, even joy. Even you feel heavier than you remember being. And the truth is, no one teaches us how to protect it. We chase success. We chase comfort. We chase dopamine without understanding what builds it. So we end up drained. Not because we're doing too little, but because we're doing too much of what numbs us and too little of what restores us. But here's the good news. You're not stuck. You don't need a new life, a new job, or a dramatic breakthrough. You just need to start treating your mind like a system worth protecting, and your dopamine like the fuel that keeps that system running. Because the Stoics had it right. They didn't chase happiness. They pursued clarity, rhythm, restoration, and from that, motivation arose naturally. Dopamine is not the goal. It's the signal, the quiet proof that your system is in balance, that your actions and values are in alignment. And once you learn how to honor it, not hijack it, it flows again. So this isn't a video about motivation hacks or productivity tricks. It's about getting your life force back. By rebuilding dopamine, not through escape, but through real, simple choices. In this video, we'll go through 10 powerful ways to restore your dopamine and rebuild your emotional clarity naturally, simply, and stoically. No supplements, no gimmicks. Just the forgotten tools your body and mind have been asking for all along. We'll move through what you do, what you eat, how you rest, how you think, and most importantly, how you return to yourself. These aren't rules, they're reminders of what works, of what heals, of what brings you back to life. And we begin with something deceptively simple. Not a breakthrough, not a secret. Just the first thing we tend to stop doing when we're low. Moving, even slowly. When you're feeling low, tired, disconnected, the last thing you want to do is move. Your body feels like a burden. Your thoughts are stuck in loops. So you sit, you scroll, you wait to feel better. But the truth is, you won't. Not until you move. And I don't mean run a marathon. I don't mean punish your body into progress. I mean move, even slowly. Stand, stretch, walk, breathe. Not for performance, for presence. Because movement isn't just physical, it's chemical. Every time you move even a little, your brain begins to shift. Dopamine production wakes up. Not because you've achieved something big, but because motion is the signal. Your nervous system reads it as, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm ready. And that alone changes everything. The problem is, we've turned movement into spectacle. 10,000 steps, 45-minute workouts, calories, reps, proof. We only move if it fits the mold and if we can measure it. But the Stoics understood something far simpler. Cleanthes, one of the early Stoics, worked nights hauling water just to support his studies. He didn't separate physical labor from mental clarity. He moved to think. His strength came not from pushing hard, but from showing up consistently. That's what most of us have forgotten. We've turned exercise into punishment and rest into avoidance. We push too hard when we're numb, and we collapse when we can't push anymore. But motion, real motion, doesn't have to be dramatic. It has to be rhythmic, intentional, gentle even. If your thoughts are spiraling, don't fight them in your chair, walk. If your heart feels heavy, don't scroll to distract. Stand. If your motivation has dried up, don't wait for it. Move until it returns. Because dopamine doesn't respond to guilt. It responds to rhythm. It responds to your body remembering that life isn't a screen, it's a series of steps, breaths, sensations. And healing isn't a breakthrough, it's a return. So if you're waiting for the perfect time to move, stop. The moment you feel stuck, that is the time. And it doesn't take much. Get up. Open the window. Stretch your arms. Roll your neck slowly. Walk barefoot through your house for 5 minutes. If you can go outside, let sunlight touch your skin. Let your senses rejoin the world. Not to lose weight, not to prove anything, just to remind your nervous system we're not frozen anymore. Because stagnation, physical or emotional, isn't just a mood. It's a message, a call to movement. Not to fix, but to reset. And if you're in pain, that's especially when you move. You move because you respect the part of you that still wants to heal. You move because stillness, too long imposed, becomes a cage. You move because every small shift in your body is a whisper to your mind. I'm still here. I haven't given up. So don't wait for motivation. Use motion to find it. Let your steps, no matter how small, become a daily act of resistance against the weight that holds you down. Because every time you move, you don't just change your posture, you change your chemistry. That's the power of dopamine when built, not stolen. And that leads us into the second way to restore it. If movement is your signal to the body, then food is your signal to the mind. And most of us are sending the wrong one. Let's talk about the next way. Eat with wisdom, not emotion. Let's be honest. When you're overwhelmed, what do you reach for first? Not breath, not stillness. You reach for food, not because you're hungry, but because you're hurting. And for a moment, it works. The crunch, the sweetness, the salt. It drowns the noise, blurs the ache, fills the gap where motivation used to live. But here's what no one tells you. Every time you eat emotionally, you don't just feed your body, you rewire your brain. You send it a message. I can't sit with this feeling. I need to numb it. And dopamine listens. Because food, real food, builds dopamine. But emotional eating, that hijacks it. Short-term high, long-term crash. If you want clarity, you can't fuel chaos. If you want energy, you can't live on spikes and crashes. Protein, healthy fats, hydration, these aren't wellness trends, they're chemistry. Your brain depends on them to synthesize dopamine. Your mood, your drive, your focus, all of it rides on the quiet decisions you make when you open the fridge. The Stoics didn't count macros, but they knew indulgence was a trap. Seneca once wrote, "Drunkenness is nothing but voluntary madness." He wasn't just talking about wine. He was talking about any moment you abandon your mind to impulse, especially what you consume. Because how you eat is how you treat yourself. It's not about clean eating. It's about conscious eating. Asking, will this fuel my clarity or feed my craving? And when you choose nourishment, when you eat with awareness, not escape, your brain responds. You don't just feel full. You feel steady, anchored, awake. Even your cravings change. Because you're no longer chasing stimulation, you're choosing stability. Now imagine pairing that clarity with rest. Not just sleep, not just lying down, but a full reset of the nervous system. Because dopamine isn't built in motion alone. It's rebuilt in recovery. And that leads us to the next way. Sleep like you're rebooting your soul. But in today's world, sleep feels like an afterthought. We worship productivity. We demonize rest. We tell ourselves we'll sleep when we're dead. And slowly, we start to feel like we're already halfway there. But the truth? Your nervous system never stops whispering. Sleep isn't optional. It's a biological non-negotiable. When you skip it, dopamine suffers. Your brain literally loses its ability to regulate emotions, build motivation, or reset its reward system. You start needing more stimulation just to feel normal. Eventually, nothing feels good at all. Ever notice how small problems feel catastrophic after a bad night? How you're quicker to snap, slower to think, heavier in every sense? That's not a mood. That's neurochemistry on empty. And here's where Stoicism steps in again. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to rise and do the work of a human being. But he also knew preparation is power. Rest isn't retreat, it's readiness. Without rest, your philosophy is just theory. With it, it becomes action. So stop treating sleep like a luxury. Protect it like a sacred space. Make your evenings a ritual of return from noise to stillness, from performance to presence. Dim the lights. Shut down the noise. Don't scroll until you crash, unwind until you soften. You don't need 8 perfect hours, but you need rhythm, you need permission. Because when you sleep with intention, you're not being lazy, you're being wise. You're choosing to build tomorrow's clarity tonight. And if you've been feeling foggy, flat, numb to life, ask yourself honestly, am I eating for fuel or for escape? Am I sleeping for recovery or collapsing from burnout? Because honoring the core, your gut and your rest, isn't about optimization. It's about respect for the system that carries you through every challenge. And once you start doing that, dopamine doesn't have to be chased. It returns quietly, naturally, like breath. Next, we'll shift from stillness to motion again. But not physical motion, emotional. Let's talk about the next way to reconnect with your drive. Setting goals and celebrating even the smallest win. When was the last time you sat in silence? Not because you were meditating, not because someone told you to, but because your mind actually needed it. No music, no scrolling, no to-do list whispering from the corner of your vision. Just breath, stillness, you. For most people today, that kind of silence feels unnatural, even threatening, because when the noise stops, something else surfaces, the things we've been avoiding. But that space, that's where dopamine rebuilds. Not through stimulation, but through presence. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He wasn't offering poetry. He was offering survival, because stillness isn't escape. It's the laboratory of clarity. It's where you learn to observe your thoughts instead of becoming them, where you let emotions rise, breathe and pass without controlling you. And neurologically, it works. Stillness, especially when practiced regularly, increases dopamine and serotonin levels. It strengthens emotional regulation. It gives your nervous system space to recalibrate. So if you've been feeling anxious, cloudy, or reactive, don't reach outward, retreat inward. Even 5 minutes. Close the door. Sit with your discomfort. Name it. Don't fix it. Let your nervous system feel safe enough to soften, because in a world that never shuts up, silence becomes an act of rebellion. And in that silence, you'll hear something else. Desire. Not craving, but true direction. The quiet knowing of what matters to you, what needs to change, what you're ready to build. That's what leads us into the next way. Way 5. Set goals and celebrate small wins. Because here's the secret about dopamine. It doesn't wait at the finish line. It meets you in motion, in every honest step forward. The problem? We've trained ourselves to delay feeling proud. We only celebrate when the book is done, when the weight is lost, when the big break comes. But your brain doesn't work that way. Dopamine thrives on progress, not perfection. It needs signs that you're not standing still. So you must give it those signs intentionally. Set goals, but don't chase mountains. Chase movement. Drink a full glass of water in the morning. Take a 5-minute walk. Write 2 sentences. Say no when you mean it. Breathe instead of snapping. Then pause. Acknowledge it. Let your system feel the quiet pride. I showed up. You don't need applause. You need alignment. And when you reward effort, not just outcomes, your mind shifts. It starts associating action with joy. You stop needing external validation. You start becoming self-powered. This is not about productivity. It's about agency. And agency is what dopamine was built for. Not just pleasure, but purpose. Even Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do." That's goal setting the Stoic way. Decide, then act, then repeat. So, here's your practice. Start a wins list. Small, private, real. Write down one thing each day you did that honored your values. Not what looked good, what felt aligned. And watch how, over time, those tiny wins begin to stack. Your energy increases. Your confidence grows. Your self-image shifts from "I'm trying" to "I'm becoming." Because when you track your progress with presence, dopamine doesn't just return, it guides you. Next, we'll shift from internal rhythm to emotional movement. Because sometimes you don't need a goal. You just need to feel again. Let's talk about the next way. Letting music move what words can't. You don't always need to solve your emotions. Sometimes you just need to move through them. And that brings us to the 6th way to restore your dopamine. Listen to music that moves you. Not just background noise, but real sound that stirs something inside. Think about it. Have you ever played a song and everything changed? Your energy shifted. Your eyes welled up not from pain, but from recognition. Like the music reached a place inside you that had been silent for too long. That isn't just nostalgia. It's not a mood. It's neurochemistry. Music, when it truly moves you, increases dopamine. Not as a spike, but as a flow. It activates your brain's reward centers, recalibrates your mood, even enhances focus and creativity. But the key is intention. Most people today consume music like noise. Always playing, always distracting. Background sound while they work, while they scroll, while they run from their own thoughts. But there's another way. Use music as medicine. Not a playlist of trends, but a mirror for your soul. When you're anxious, don't silence it, play something gentle. When you're numb, don't chase stimulation, play something that stirs. When you feel stuck, flat, lifeless, don't caffeinate. Play the song that once made you feel alive. Because dopamine doesn't respond to force. It responds to resonance. What moves you, heals you. Not by fixing you, but by reminding you that you're still here. Even the Stoics, though they didn't write about music, directly valued rhythm and harmony deeply. Seneca often wrote about emotional discipline as a form of tuning the soul. And what is music, if not emotion in rhythm? When you're feeling heavy, don't ask yourself what's wrong. Ask, what do I need to feel again? Then let music answer. No explanation, no justification. Just let it play. Let it rise. Let it soften the parts of you that words can't reach. Because, here's the truth, you don't always need to solve your emotions. Sometimes, you just need to let them move. And music gives you a safe way to do that. Without pressure, without judgment. Let's make it practical. Create a few playlists, not for style, but for state. One for mornings when you need light. One for nights when you need calm. One for when grief visits. One for when you're ready to reclaim your fire. And keep them close. Not as a tool for performance, but for presence. Because a single song can do what 1,000 thoughts cannot. It can crack something open. It can remind you who you were, and who you still are beneath the layers of stress and silence. It can restore you. And it doesn't need to be happy music. Sometimes the most healing songs are sad. Not to deepen the pain, but to let it finally breathe and release. That's dopamine too. The kind that flows not from escape, but from truth. Because in a world that constantly tells you to think harder, work more, try again, music gives you permission to feel without fixing. And in that space, healing happens. So ask yourself now, what song have I avoided playing because I know it'll make me feel too much? What melody have I forgotten that once made me feel weightless? Play it. Don't overthink it. Just let it move through you. Because sometimes the most stoic thing you can do is surrender to what softens you. Next, we move from sound to something even deeper. The company you keep. Because dopamine isn't just built in silence or solitude, it's also shaped in the presence of those who truly see you. Let's talk about how relationships heal, or harm, your inner chemistry. Let's tell the truth most people avoid. You can do all the right things, move, eat well, sleep, meditate, but if the people around you are draining your spirit, your dopamine will keep leaking. Because dopamine isn't just built in solitude. It's shaped, amplified, or destroyed in the company you keep. That brings us to the 7th way to restore your dopamine. Surround yourself with nourishing relationships. Not just familiar people, not just people you've known forever, but people who make your nervous system feel safe. People whose presence feels like a deep exhale, not a test. Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt lighter, clearer, more like yourself? That's not luck. That's biology. That's your brain responding to presence, empathy, authenticity, all of which boost dopamine. And have you also left other interactions feeling cloudy, judged, shrinking, like your energy quietly evaporated in the name of being nice? That's not just emotion. That's your brain detecting a threat. Toxic dynamics, even subtle ones, suppress dopamine. Your system shifts from reward to survival. You become reactive, tense, unfocused, small. The Stoics understood this long before modern neuroscience. Seneca wrote, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood. Not liked, not tolerated, understood." That kind of friendship isn't loud. It doesn't demand. It gently restores you simply by being real. But here's the problem. Most people surround themselves with proximity, not nourishment. They keep relationships out of guilt, routine, or fear of being alone. And then wonder why they always feel off. The truth? Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones slowly dismantling your chemistry. That doesn't mean you cut everyone out, but it does mean you pay attention. Here's how. After every social interaction, pause. Ask, do I feel more grounded or more scattered? Was I myself or a performance? Did I leave feeling seen or silently judged? Because every conversation is input, and over time, your brain becomes what it's exposed to most often. So start curating, even if it means fewer connections, even if it means more quiet. Because one genuine, steady relationship does more for your emotional balance than 50 shallow ones. And here's the second part. Be that nourishing presence too. Listen without fixing. Celebrate without comparing. See people without trying to reshape them. Because relationships are mirrors. The energy you bring into the world reflects back. And when two people show up in truth, not performance, not pretense, dopamine flows, motivation builds, healing happens. So if you've been feeling heavy lately, ask yourself, who's in my space? Who gets access to my energy, my attention, my emotional bandwidth? And do they truly deserve it? You don't need to judge them, but you do need to protect your peace. Because your environment is not neutral, it's shaping your chemistry, whether you notice or not. Even if you can't change your whole circle right now, you can change one thing: your boundaries. Spend 5 extra minutes with someone who sees you. Say no kindly, clearly to someone who drains you. Or simply take a walk, alone, without anyone else's story in your ears. Because sometimes healing your dopamine isn't about doing more. It's about being around, less of what depletes you. And from that space of quiet strength, you'll find new clarity, not just about people, but about what kind of life your nervous system actually wants to live. Next, we go even deeper, beyond people, back to the rhythm of nature itself, the light, the air, the world we forgot we came from. Let's talk about the next way, letting the sun touch your skin and what it does to your mind. You were never built to live under fluorescent lights. You were not designed to spend your best hours behind screens, behind walls, behind filtered windows. And yet, that's where most people exist now, indoors, disconnected, dimmed. That's why the 8th way to restore your dopamine is so deceptively simple. Let the sun touch your skin. Not symbolically, not poetically. Literally. Walk outside. Feel light on your face. Let your eyes, without sunglasses, absorb the real sky. Let your skin remember that it belongs to the world, not just to your job or your feed. Because sunlight isn't just warm, it's neurological. It increases dopamine production in regions of the brain tied to focus and drive. It resets your circadian rhythm. It realigns your chemistry with a force older than any algorithm. And yet we hide from it. We sleep past sunrise. We sit in chairs beneath artificial ceilings. We scroll through morning instead of meeting it. And then we wonder why we feel dull, restless, foggy, as if something essential is missing, because something is. Even Marcus Aurelius 2,000 years ago found clarity under the stars. He didn't escape to nature. He belonged to it. He wrote, not as a man looking at the universe, but as someone who remembered, I am part of this order. I am nature, and you are too. So step outside, not to post, not to be productive, just to remember where you came from. Let your breath deepen. Let your thoughts loosen. Let your senses, strained and compressed by technology, recalibrate to something real. Even 5 minutes. Because in that sunlight, something ancient happens. You come back to yourself. But sometimes, even nature isn't enough. Because you can be surrounded by beauty and still feel empty. That's where the 9th way comes in. Do what you love. not just what's expected. It sounds obvious, but for most people it's revolutionary. Because somewhere along the way, joy got scheduled out. We stopped doing things simply because they made us feel alive. We traded wonder for obligation, curiosity for productivity, creation for consumption, and dopamine suffered. You weren't made to live for your resume. You weren't made to only move when there's a metric. You were made to express, explore, feel. The Stoics called this eudaimonia, the flourishing of one's nature. Seneca reminded us that we are not slaves to duty, but guardians of our own inner fire. So ask yourself, when did I last get lost in something I loved? Not something I had to do, not something I was praised for. Something that lit me up even if nobody noticed. Painting, gardening, writing, tinkering, dancing, even sitting in silence with a book that feeds your mind. These aren't hobbies, they're resets. Every time you return to joy, true, quiet joy, your brain thanks you, your nervous system thanks you, your identity strengthens. Because when you do what you love, you stop being a machine and start being a person again. And no, this isn't about quitting your job or abandoning your responsibilities. It's about reclaiming 1 hour, 15 minutes, one honest act each day that reminds you, I'm still here, I still have color inside. That's dopamine, built gently, sustainably, in alignment with who you really are, not who you perform to be. So the next time your schedule feels full but your heart feels empty, pause. Don't ask, what should I do? Ask, what would I love to do just for me? Then do it. Protect it. Let it matter. Because when you honor what lights you up, you restore what the world quietly steals each day. And now, as we near the end, there's one more piece left. You've moved, you've nourished, you've rested, you've reconnected. But all of it means little if you're still gripping stress like it's your duty. Let's talk about the final and most misunderstood way to restore dopamine. Not resisting stress, but releasing it. How much energy do you spend trying to hold it all together? You smile when your chest feels heavy. You nod through conversations when your mind is screaming for quiet. You show up for everyone else while secretly begging for a moment to breathe. And you call that strength. But the final truth you need to hear is this. Dopamine doesn't thrive in pressure. It thrives in release. That brings us to the 10th and final way to restore your dopamine. Release stress. Don't just resist it. Because what most people call resilience is really just long-term suppression. We hold stress like armor. We think if we just push through, power through, stay silent, it'll go away. But it doesn't. It burrows. It hardens. It clogs the very systems meant to keep us clear, calm, and motivated. Your nervous system is not infinite. It can't endlessly absorb tension and still function at full capacity. Eventually, it breaks down quietly. Your focus fades, your motivation vanishes, your dopamine disappears. That's why stress must be released, not endured. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But here's what most people miss. Reacting wisely doesn't mean ignoring emotion. It means giving yourself space to feel so you don't act from chaos, but from clarity. The body knows what to do if we let it. Sometimes release looks like a long walk. Sometimes it's a deep exhale. Sometimes it's crying in the shower without shame. Sometimes it's 10 minutes of stillness with your hand on your chest, whispering, "This doesn't define me, and it's safe to let go." You don't have to collapse to earn rest. You don't have to hit the wall before you're allowed to stop. You can build rituals of release daily. Small acts that teach your body. You are no longer in danger. You don't need to hold everything anymore. Because when you release stress, even just a little, your system shifts. You go from survival mode to presence, from defense to direction, from reacting to choosing. And that's where dopamine starts flowing again. Not as a reward for pushing harder, but as a sign that your body is no longer at war with itself. So ask yourself right now, where am I carrying tension that isn't mine? What story am I holding on to that I no longer believe in? What would it feel like to simply breathe and release? You don't have to answer out loud. Just begin the ritual. One breath, one walk, one truth you let out of your body, instead of locking it deeper in. And when you do that daily, not dramatically, but gently, you heal. You don't fix everything. You don't become perfect. You just stop leaking dopamine through the cracks of unprocessed emotion. That is the ultimate act of inner discipline. To let go when it's time and trust that clarity will return. So if you've made it here, this far, remember, you don't need to chase transformation. You don't need a new identity or a miracle morning. You just need to honor the basics deeply, consistently. Move, nourish, sleep, be still, connect, feel, let light in, return to joy, choose better company, release. These are not hacks. They are choices of self-respect. And dopamine is not the goal, it's the signal. A quiet whisper from your body that says, this is the right direction, keep going. So if this video spoke to you, share it with someone else who needs it. And subscribe for more content that helps you come back to yourself, one powerful step at a time. Because this isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before stress, noise, and numbness dulled your edges. You're not broken. You're just tired of living disconnected. And now, you know how to return.